Hey folks, with Shimano just introducing their new brakes with the XTR. I just got my hands on a heavily discounted SLX M7000, and also because I have a bit of a collection of brakes over here, at least a couple of generations or so, I thought I would take another look at what we have to play with today and what has been my experience in using them for the last 4 or 5 years or so. Servo wave, it's what they use in their master cylinder. iSpec 2 is the attachment to the handlebar. They use mineral oil and ice technologies for their pads and the discs. Over here you're going to see that in this box I have the left lever that comes with a metallic pad with fins, and the length of that rear hose, it's 1.7 meters. In this corner of the box you see the product code and the fact that this is made in Japan. Looking inside the box, yep, this is the user manual, which is quite generic, so there's not a lot of information in there. I would suggest to watch my other videos to find out the details, but if you look at what's inside, I mentioned that this is my rear brake, and you see here that is the olive, and there's an insert right next to it. But the front brake includes not only the olive and insert you need to shorten the hoses. Again, watch my video if you need to see how to do that. This is a bleeding block, and these are the two pieces of another little block that helps you cut down hoses. See the screws over there? Screws are long enough to install the brakes for 160 millimeter discs. Anything but the 160 discs requires a spacer or a bracket like this. You can see the longer screws that are required as well. The finish on the lever is semi-gloss black with the printed model number here. Same with the brake lever itself. You can see the bar clamp. This one is iSpec 2, which is narrower than the older iSpec B or the newly introduced iSpec EV. This uses Shimano mineral oil, they all do. The back of the caliper, see again Japan M7000. You see that little retaining clip over there? That is for the pad retaining screw. That's changed from the old SLX that used to use just a clip. This is what's called a post-mount brake caliper. Compared to that, you can see the XTR M8000 lever here has pretty much the same shape, master cylinder the same, and printed on the back of the caliper is a different part number. But aside from the finish, I don't think we're going to see any difference whatsoever between these two. SLX front brake, 286 grams. Compared to that, the XT front brake, 273. The rear brake SLX is 301 grams, and I can tell you that the XT is 275. So where are these brakes in the current Shimano lineup? Usually SLX is the second one in the list. The one below it would be Deore, that uses the same master cylinder. But as you can see here on this old Deore M6000, they also removed the reach adjustment from here. Obviously, you don't have the three-stroke adjustment at all. Moving up from Deore M6000 to M7000 SLX, you only get here the reach adjustment. Also, if you look at the three-stroke adjustment, it's not really usable. However, people told me that if you use a snake eye bit or tool, you can actually use that screw the same way that you would here on the XT. XT being the most feature-rich, it adds that three-stroke adjustment, and also you can see the finish of the lever here, adds the dimples. SLX doesn't have it, this is plain. And on top of that, it's only the XT Race, and they have two flavors of their brakes. One is this, which is XTR Race, which is a stripped down version of everything just for saving weight. Carbon lever, as you can see, no free-stroke adjustment, no servo wave. XTR Trail version of that is pretty much the XT with more exotic materials being used. Think about magnesium caliper and master cylinder. Also, not too long ago, they've introduced the XT8020, which is the same brake lever that you see over here, but with 4-piston calipers for e-bikes and more gravity-oriented disciplines. Talking about gravity, same generation with these Deores. They still have the Shimano Z and signed also with 4 piston calipers. One last thing about brake levers is the installation, and you see the iSpec B bar clamp used in the past. Then all these new ones use iSpec 2. You can see SLX, XT, the new Deore, and the XTR. Covered all these in the videos, the installation videos that I have on my channel. But the new XTR 12-speed, the M9100, has moved that bar clamp here somewhere in the middle of the brake lever, and now it's called iSpec EV. Obviously, that wouldn't be compatible with any of the previous generation shifters. Brake levers aside, here are 2 of the designs they use today on their calipers. And you see the SLX here, and the bleeding port is on that side. The hose comes out through what's called a banjo here on the outer part of your brake caliper. Looking at the Deore, the bleeding port is on the outside and the hose comes out on the inside. Also doesn't have a banjo. I actually prefer that kind of hose routing because it's not rubbing here on the frame at all. Next to the XT, we already know they are identical, made out of 2 pieces that are bolted together here and here. Painted aluminum material, black and glossy gray. Finally, SLX next to XTR. If you look carefully, you're going to see that the design of the caliper is identical. The main difference here being magnesium body versus aluminum, and also you have titanium bolts here for installation. All the other brakes come with steel hardware. The newly introduced 9100, so the new XTR brakes, actually go away from this design. They have the hose coming out here on the inside, similar to Deore. Also, they don't have a banjo and they have different pads. For the trailer and Deore version of those, you have the 4 potted brakes or 4 piston calipers, very similar to XT8020, Z, and Scient. They actually share the same pads as well. Talking about pads, we got a bit spoiled by Shimano because they've only used 2 dimensions of pads. You see the wider, bigger ones here used for the 4 piston calipers. That would be the Scient, the Z, the M8020, and the new M9100 trail or enduro brakes. And for everything else from M6000 all the way up, or even the older generation of brakes, they all use this size of brake pads. These pads come in 2 form factors, what's called the fanned or the cooling fans and the non-fanned version. Also, you can see here this is a resin pad and this is a metallic brake pad. The material looks different. You would choose the resin pads for better modulation and quietness. You would choose the metallic pads for better fading resistance, for more durability, and arguably more power. All these brakes retain the pads in place in 1 or 2 ways. SLX and up, you have this threaded bolt right here, 3mm Allen, safety clip at the end. That's how you install. You look at the Deore, it uses a pin like this. Just insert the pin through the pads and then use a needle nose plier just to bend it at the end. If your old SLX didn't come with this retaining pin, you can actually buy it online and it's only a few bucks. The last thing worth mentioning here is the type of pistons that these calipers use. I have the SLX here and the XT. You can see the white pistons over there. These are made out of ceramic. They are a bit brittle. Yes, they can break, especially if you try to push them in unevenly. But they do help with reduce the brake fade because they don't transfer that much heat from the pads to the brake fluid inside. The Deore piston is black. That is made out of aluminum alloy, so no ceramic there. And finally, the XTR, even though the pistons look black, just like the Deore, they're actually made of coated ceramic, so better version of what's found in the XT and SLX. If you stay with me this long, not only that you're an expert on the current Shimano brake portfolio, but you probably have some questions. And let me guess, one of the first questions is whether I had issues with the M8000 brakes, the XT. And the answer is yes, I did have some issues with the original or initial shipments of the XTR M8000 that would provide an inconsistent breakpoint. So on the trail it would break here, then it would break further down, and that was the symptom. They replaced them, no questions asked. Moving on and specifically talk about SLX, these are brand new to me. I never used them, but from what I've read, they've fixed all the issues, and by now you know that these SLX are nothing more than XTs on a different color. XTR, the ones that I have here are XTR race brakes. I've been using them for quite a while. They're good enough for trail. I even took them to the local bike park. However, they're not as powerful as the XTs. Remember, the XTR race doesn't include the servo wave. They are the lightest brakes that they have in the portfolio regardless. If I am to talk about issues with them, I haven't had the bite point issue. However, they seem to be a bit more finicky when it comes to pad adjustment or caliper adjustment around the disc. Finally, the Deore brakes. This is the previous generation Deore, but as you can see, uses the same lever shape. They're using mineral oil and most of the same technology used on their most expensive brothers. So for an entry-level brake that just lasts forever and requires almost zero maintenance, I would highly recommend those ones. If I had a bit more money, I don't know if I would fork for the XTR. I would probably just go back all the way down to the SLX as being probably the best value in their lineup today. So what about you guys? What kind of brakes do you use? Have you had any issues with Shimano's, or you forked for the current SRAM, Hope, TRP, or Maguras that are available out there in the marketplace? I would love to hear your comments and ideas and suggestions. As usual, if you found this useful, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll put a lot more information in the description of the video. And until next time, I hope to see you folks on the trails. Cheers, guys. Cheers.